Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Laura McCletty along with Jackie Edward Walton, Mary Johnson, wait, Mary Johnson, Steve Johnson, Winston Robinson, who's not with us this morning, but he's represented, his family's here, Nathalie McGarrett, Sarita Sherrill, and Carlenia Ivory Canty. We are the volunteers for the Sarah Stevenson's Tuesday morning forum. Before we get started, we'd like to ask Sarita to lead us in a word of prayer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Bow your heads as we pray together, and if you don't pray, just leave a moment of silence to whomever. Dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful today for all the beauty that surrounds us, the children, the clean air, the sunshine, the rain, the sky streaked with all the colors of the rainbow, for the knowledge that nature speaks to us this way and expands our knowledge. God, bless this forum this morning. Bless the presenters. Bless us as we continue as a team to stay focused on one thing, getting the information out to our friends and neighbors, to the neighborhood in particular. Bless our state. Bless our nation, God. Bless our county and our city and our neighborhoods, even our homes. In Jesus' name we pray. Let us say together,
Amen. Thanks again. Do we have anyone here for the very first time? Okay. And we will have everyone to introduce themselves as they speak. So what our most desired objective for this meeting this morning is to hear the ramifications of the move that was made by the House of Representatives Tricia Cotham changing her political affiliation. Another one of our objectives is to provide a platform to give everyone who has the desire to share about this matter to do so. Everyone would have an opportunity to speak. Another one of our objectives is to receive recommendations or a plan on how to deal with this situation as it stands today and the future as well, politically, and with us having just one party as a supermajority. The last and not least, we would like to have an organization or someone to volunteer to organize or create a plan or a strategy with all of us working together. Of course, we have rules here. We like to share those rules. Everyone matters and we are all important. We ask you to stay on topic, respect each other, and please, as we conversate, please do not be redundant. Respect our timekeeper, who is Nathalie, and she will hold up her sign because we'll only give you so much time to speak. We have invited our state legislators to share what the ramifications are. So we have 3 here so far. So we have adequate representation from our state legislation. We have invited as many of our local organizations and community leaders as possible so we can come up with ideas on what plans we can implement for us to work together in dealing with this situation, on what can be done at this point and in the future. We will allow the legislators to speak 4 minutes, discussing or sharing with us what the ramifications are. And starting on my left side, we would ask within 1 minute, each person, maybe 2 minutes, since it's not a lot of people here, to introduce yourself and share his or herself and share what you would like to see to occur now or in the future. And that's the way we will conduct this meeting this morning. Once again, just to reiterate, our legislators will have 4 minutes, and what we're asking them to do is give us what they see or what they know of the ramifications of what has occurred. And we're asking your leaders in the community and everybody who want an opportunity to speak we'll give you a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes to talk about where you can see where we can go. Now, I have a few texts from a few people that I like to read because we've invited a lot of folk they're not able to come. And we have remarks from Jackie at this time.
My remarks are so happy to have you here, and thank you for those of you who came at the last minute, because it seems as if this has been going on for longer than the week. But the consequences are out there, and it's an opportunity for political engagement, which North Carolina is in need of. Thank you again for coming.
Okay, we will start with our legislators. So we'll yield to the female. And we have the timekeeper here. We'll say in 4 minutes, if you all could just talk to us about what this means to our state with her switching parties and running on a Democratic Party's agenda.
4 minutes total.
I represent Cunningham, I represent District 106, and if you all don't know it, after the district lines for the grown in Mecklenburg County, and I don't know if I can talk any louder. Anyway, I'll try. Hold on, we can get you a mic.
We get your mic. Okay.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm representing Cunningham, and I represent Mecklenburg County, but I also go all the way up to Huntersville, which is a brand new district portion for me. What can I elaborate on? Yes, she did switch parties. The ramifications of Representative Cotham switching parties is that we no longer have veto. That's the main issue. So if it's anything like the gun bill and some significant other legislation that may come about, if the governor veto, we cannot sustain his veto. Now, let me say, before she changed, we did have other Democrats as well that they were counting on as well to vote with them. Now, those other legislators are not out of Mecklenburg County, but they're still maintaining their Democratic status. The other thing that will probably happen is that she will caucus with them. And the understanding also is that they have majority control in the Senate as well. So the Senate can't stop anything either. So that means that right now, for us, the power structure, we really don't have anything that we can stop in the legislature. The governor can veto, but I do not see that it would be sustainable. So legislation that comes about, if it is impacting us in a way directly that we totally disagree with, we cannot stop it. The other thing is that lots of people ask for her resignation across the state. Party, top down, locally, people ask for her resignation. But there is nothing in place in the state of North Carolina that can make her resign or that can do a recall vote, which some states do have a recall vote, but we do not. So that's basically the ramifications. I'm gonna let my colleagues elaborate further, but that is basically where we are right now.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining. I'm Wesley Harris. I represent District 1 and 5 in the Valentine area, down in South Charlotte, and Representative Cunningham really covered it well. That the fact of the matter is we are backing a supermajority, a Republican supermajority in the state. And so if we want to stop any piece of legislation it will have to, a Republican will have to choose to uphold Governor Cooper's veto, which, any veto we've had, I haven't seen that happen. And so it takes a lot of balance out of our state government. And, as Representative Cunningham said, there's no mechanism in place to have a recall election. So really the only thing we can do is look forward and say, okay, well, these are what the next elections are going to be, and make sure that when candidates run, we hold them to that standard of making them tell us what their beliefs are and how they feel on the issues. And so I'm optimistic and hopeful. I would say that Representative Cotham will abide by the platform she ran on, even though there's a different letter beside her name and she sits on a different side of the chamber. But that's yet to be seen, and all we can do is hope for that. But we've never had a situation where someone from such a Democratic district has made that change. People have switched parties before in the General Assembly, but it was always either like a very, very 50-50 district or one that leaned fairly conservative. And so their voting record kind of held up to that. But to have one that's been such an overwhelmingly Democratic district and change based on the platform they ran for is a little bit unprecedented. And again, I don't think it'll change what the voting pattern will be based on what previous votes in this session has been so far. But we have to work together to do whatever we can to make sure that we protect our most vulnerable citizens as much as possible, because that's really the only tool we have. And so a lot of what we have to do is just look forward and say, okay, where do we go from here? How do we campaign from here and make sure we get that balance back in North Carolina?
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm John Autry. I represent you in the North Carolina House for District 100, which is East Charlotte. Great to be here with you this morning. I appreciate this opportunity. It's a Mel of a Hess that the people of District 112 were led down a path to support a candidate, and then to have that candidate turn their back on them and defect to the dark side. Been here before. In my first term, 2017, 2018, was in the super minority and had to just sit by and watch as the majority steamrolled over us at every angle and from every direction. It was not fun. It did not make me happy. And in the election of 2018, we broke the supermajority and had a shot at getting close to where we thought we could have been with at least 61 members in the next couple of cycles. That did not turn out to be so. So I would say going forward, it's going to take everyone in this room and 20 other people that you know to go out and be acolytes for voters, spreading the word, delivering the message, making the case that the current majority is not serving the people of North Carolina. And fear is a powerful motivator. And when you only have fear and divisiveness, fear of the other, and nothing but divisiveness in your toolkit, you can motivate a lot of voters. And I think this is the key component to the majority's success, is fear. But I just think when we have an election that shows in Mecklenburg County that we were off 7.5 points, we're at 7.5 points from where we were in 2018 when we made such an advance in heading towards that 61 member line. why don't people vote? And think about what a difference that would have made in Sherry Beasley's race for Supreme Court Chief Justice. So 300 votes, less than 400 votes total. And, District 100 has a lot of apartments. And if we can't crack the code of getting people who reside in apartments to show up and vote, I don't know if we're going to be able to turn it around in Mecklenburg County. That has to be a key focus of what we do going forward. So I thank you for being here. I wish I had a brighter message and something to share that would cheer everybody up. But this is going to be ugly, and it's going to be ruthless, and there'll be blood on the walls of the chamber by the time we adjourn in July.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nassim G, I represent House District 99. That's Northeast Charlotte, Hidden Valley, Hampshire Hills, Bat Creek in that area, and University. I knew we were in trouble once I saw how that vote was going earlier. That session opened, that omnibus gun bill, and I saw how Ms. Cotham was voting and some others were voting, and they said everything. I don't need to repeat what they said, but some things that were said in the press conference about hostility and all of that, I don't know anything about that. I really don't know anything about that. I've never seen any hostility expressed toward her. Her was quite cordial from opening day. Matter of fact, I had never seen her in the caucus. Maybe so I saw her in the opening in a retreat. Never saw her in the caucus meeting. And some things were said in the conference that seated by the governor. That we don't get seated by the governor. We see the speaker and the relative, parties, whose chair he is. Thinking about being in lockstep with the governor. Well, I'm going to lockstep with the governor because my ideals, the ideals and the things that, the ridiculous bills we're trying to stop. But I have never had anybody quote me and come to me and say, you got to vote this way or you got to vote this way. So that was a little shocking to me. We are, let's say, we're in a tight spot right now. We lost 5 seats, critical seats. We were able to sustain all 43 of the governor's veto in the last 2 sessions. But we lost 5 critical seats, a lot due to the redistricting and good members, and would enable us to hold and sustain the governor's veto. And then on top of that, we lost the NC State Supreme Court. And so now everything is going to redistrict the congressional districts. And I heard that they're going to look at the House and the Senate districts. And I heard that someone might be trying to draw a district for this Cotham. I don't know, but that's to be seen. But we are not in a good situation. I don't know what's going to come down, but they got some pretty horrible things coming down the line that I heard as far as legislation is concerned. We can't stop it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We don't have any more legislators here, do we? Okay, so what we will do now, and thank you all very much for sharing. And we probably will have time that we would like to ask you all some questions. And we will facilitate identifying those that would like to ask the questions. But before we do that, we would like to give everyone a voice here. So we're going to start with this gentleman right here. And we're going to go, I said I was going to start on my left, but I'm going to start on my right. So we're going to start with this gentleman. And what we would like for you to do is give us your name, and if you're affiliated with an organization, and just share with us what you would how you feel and what you would like to happen as a result of this situation, and based on what you've heard from our legislators, if you like to. And then we're going to do Thomas More, and we're going to give you a minute and a half. Is that okay, Jackie? Or 2 minutes? A minute and a half?
Yeah.
A minute and a half. And we ask you all to please respect our timekeeper. If she holds up the sign, please stop. So with that being said, your name, if you're affiliated, you don't have to give an affiliation, but what you would like to see occur at this point with the situation as it is, as it stands.
Yeah, so I'll be pretty quick. So my name is DJ Simmons. I'm actually a reporter for the Charlotte Observer, and this is actually my second time here at Tuesday Forum. So I just stopped in today, but so because of my job, I can't really share it.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to do Thomas and Ken Coons. How about that? Thomas,
help me understand how is this really critical in terms of issues relating to children and families? Your thoughts on that?
we're going to take questions for them after we let everybody have their say.
Okay.
So they're going to be available to answer the questions, and we're going to facilitate that. But if you want, do you have a statement to make?
I just
comment.
I just want to thank you for your service to this state. My understanding is that we are supposed to stand for all people throughout the state, and it seems that what has happened with the Democratic Party is we tend to look at all people, and I am so thankful for that.
Okay. And Ken, I know you just came in, but what we are asking people to do is stay on topic, respect each other, do not be redundant, and respect our timekeeper. But we're giving everyone an opportunity to share with us what your desire is about this matter. And it's your opportunity to speak for a minute and a half.
Oh, okay. Is Tricia here?
No.
Was she invited? Was she invited?
No.
Then my comment would simply be that in light of the fact that as a candidate, she sought support and this forum as a means of expressing to the electorate general her views and thoughts. I would think it unconscionable that this body would not extend to her an invitation to come and again restate what it is the interests may possibly have been in her purpose. And that not being done, and now hearing, I suppose, the legislators who are here are responding to that transition from one party to another. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's basically incompetence. But I am just disappointed that she was not extended an invitation, just as she was extended an invitation as a candidate. And now having flipped, I would think that this body would be incumbent upon them to allow their audiences to understand and to know straight from the horse's mouth what, why, and so forth.
Thank you. Okay, Tina.
Tina Marshall with Black Abortion Defense League, also known as Battle. That's what I'm interested in. I know she said that she was going to uphold the 13 ban. I hope she doesn't. I hope we can keep abortion as it is. I don't believe in any bans, but if we have to, a 20-week ban or 21-week ban is what I would like to keep or go back to. That is all.
Hi, I'm Christy Puckett-Williams. I'm an organizer, an activist, an advocate, and a lobbyist, and I'm a constituent of 112. And I'm disappointed in Ms. Cotham's decision, but it's also not surprising. There's a history here of white women being complicit in the subjugation and commodification of Black people in our situations. And I think that, her alignment with power is historical. It's not ahistorical. And so I think we have to analyze it from the historical context. She's accusing a caucus that she never attended, that's led by a Black man, of being a bully towards her. And to me, it just reeks of white supremacy. It reeks of disingenuity, and it's not ahistorical. We just have to look at the history, not just of her behavior, but of how white women have always stood in the gap to allow white supremacy to thrive in this country. And that this is not just a betrayal of Black people. This is a betrayal to all of us who believe in a democracy, all of us who believe that there should be balances of power. She has really, and when somebody asks why aren't people voting, because we don't see the concrete and material conditions of our lives changing. No matter standing in those gerrymandered lives, no matter how much we show up, no matter how much we march, we are still in the same subjugated states.
Thank you.
I'm Cameron Pruitt. I am the Director of Faith Organizing with the Freedom Center for Social Justice and Bishop Tanya Rawls. When during her press conference last week, Tricia Cotham talked a lot about her faith as part of her switch, and that people were attacking her for her faith and using praying hand emojis. I prayed with Tricia Cotham on the first day of her session. I went in with her constituents, and we asked about what's coming down the pike. Is it LGBTQ bills, anti-abortion bills? Who are we targeting first? And Representative Cotham laughed at me, said there will always be the crazies, but I had nothing to worry about. So I was there day one of the session. And that's what she told me to my face with constituents of hers in her room. And so obviously the Senate had its deadline to file bills last week, and through a raft of anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ legislation. John earlier talked about how they use fear and division. They will find who we're uncomfortable with, who we're scared of, who is the other, who looks different, talks different, is different than me, and then we'll use that to divide us. To either depress turnout, so you're like, I'm scared of them, I don't want to turn out, or to find ways to align us against each other. And so it is incumbent on us to stand together, not just at the ballot box, but organize in our communities to support the abortion funds around our areas, to support the LGBTQ people doing work on the ground, and to support our churches who are doing that work on the ground, because that's what we got.
Thank you.
I'm Mary Johnson. I'm one of the facilitators here, but I've been involved in politics for a very long time. I was just in Raleigh a few weeks ago on a Wednesday when they voted for the Medicaid expansion. And I was talking to the legislators and also saw G that I finally got around there. They were going into the session. But the major thing that they emphasized, it was about 4 on a panel, they emphasized the fact that we have become complacent, that we have become comfortable. We have nice cars, nice houses, nice jobs, and we don't have the urgency to vote like we did. The bottom line is to vote. I don't care what we say about Tricia Cotham or anybody else. If we don't go out and vote, why did our Bruce lose by less than 400 votes? We know 400 people. We know that we could, and it's not just poor people who are not voting. We got a lot of middle and upper class people who don't vote. So I'm for voting. I'm for what are we going to do to get that vote out? That's what really counts.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Barbara A. Ratliff. I represent the Black Political Caucus of Charlotte, Maine. Disappointed, not surprised. Your vote matters. We gotta get back, or go back to the old way. We gotta take one. We gotta reach out to your neighbors, your friends, your haters, or whoever. We got to get back to the polls and vote. Make a change. We need that. As I said, disappointed, but not surprised. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, family, and everybody here as well. I basically don't have, my name is Tony Foreman, I'm sorry. Most of y'all know me, so I'm so sorry. I just want to make a recommendation that if we're going to come and assemble here to address an issue that's going to affect all of us, then we need to put a body together that's going to look at the history, find out how we got back here, and come up with a strategic approach as to how we're going to get people to come out and vote, and give them a reason to come out and vote. If you don't give people a reason, they're not going to come out. Our people are still yelling out the old adage, I'm not going to vote because if I vote, nothing is going to change. And it just proved it. Nothing has changed. And the history lets you know that we got to come up with another strategy. Let history be our best teacher. I have another meeting I have to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
See you at the polls.
Okay, Carlene.
Yes, my name is Carlene. I'm with TMT. And I'm with the Charlotte Texas Schools Partnership and Family Engagement Department. I'm also consider myself a community advocate, especially for individuals, underserved individuals. I think it's so important. I want to echo what Barbara and what Mary said about voting. It's important, and to me, there's no excuse. No excuse whatsoever. You know, if people might say it's not going to accomplish anything, that's a lie. It will. But as far as Ms. Cotham is concerned, yes, I'm disappointed. I supported her. I'm appalled, but as you said, Ms. Barbara, not surprised. But I don't think this happened overnight. I think there were negotiations prior to her being elected. And I think that she has aspirations beyond where she is. And that in order to accomplish them, she felt she neglected the people that she was served to represent and looked out for herself. That is my feeling.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle Levasseur, and I moved here 18 years ago from a very blue state. And it was, oh my gosh, is this what the world is like? And that's when I became politically involved. And since then, I have been working on a lot of different levels. But what it all boils down to is the vote. Get out the vote. Talk to everybody. Talk to your friends. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to a 17-year-old and say, do you know you can register to vote? And be ready to vote then the next time. Embarrass yourself. It doesn't make any difference. But get that vote. And if you see them again, shoot. You do it? They start going like this. But it's all about what you say. Vote and support the people who are running. Okay? Mention their name so that when they go to the polls, and most people don't necessarily do any homework, and say, I know that name. Somebody mentioned that name.
Thank you. Rodney, pass it to Rodney back there.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Rodney Moore. I'm a friend of the forum, former colleague of some of these young men and this young lady that you see here today. I believe that Miss Ivory hit it on the head. I believe that this was a planned action. If you just look at the chain of events that came about, when Trish went into the first day of session, Tricia was appointed an education co-chair. Now, Tricia was gone for 6 years. Now, Tricia was in the minority party, and she gets a gavel after 6 years of being away from the General Assembly. That should have been a clue right there. I mean, I sat back and looked at this. I actually ran for 112, but I got sick and I had to drop out. So there's no gripes there. But you just had to see the chain of events. And then her insults to the people that voted for her. Well, I felt threatened and they hurt my feelings. And Carla slapped me in the ladies' room, or whatever the case may be. I'm picking on Carla, but whatever the case may be, she very well made. I understand, but give me a little brevity? I just feel like that was a planned action, and that we went past that now.
Okay, Rodney, we asked for everybody for a minute.
Okay, I got it.
Just looking for comments. Christopher Robbins.
Hello, I'm Rashid Sadler. So, did someone say she left the party because of like bullying or something?
That's what she
said. Okay. I mean, I don't really get what that has to do. I don't support bullying, but I don't really get what that has to do with switching parties. But and because of her faith, she switched. She said, yeah. I'm just saying that's what she said at her press conference. Okay. I would just wanted to make that clear. I'm pretty sure the Bible says no practice deceit will do in my house, but I think so. I'm not sure. But I was just confused on the situation. I'm like, why exactly, instead of maybe like being independent or like find another route, she chose to do that. It doesn't seem like it was just a spur of the moment thing. It seemed like it was planned, something going on behind the scenes to accomplish whatever goal they planned on accomplishing. But okay.
My name is Kenny Harris. I'm a realtor here in the area, and I'm here also as a concerned citizen. My opinion on it is Ms. Cotham. She lied to her constituents, and she violated public trust. And I'd like to hear a plan from the Democratic Party to press her on the issues when it's time to run against her and get her out of that seat. Because I feel like now she's vulnerable, even though they're going to gerrymander the district. If you press her on the issues and not her personal feelings, I believe the way that she's voted in the past will show who she really is. And I definitely don't think that she fits in the party that she's decided to switch to.
She clearly fits. What up, people?
I'm Sarita Sherrill, and I have questions that haven't been answered in the news. I want to know what the constituency thinks about this and what are they going to do about it. That's the big question that I have. Then I'm worried about the issues that haven't been addressed in that area. I have questions and no answers. And what can we do as a body? What can we do today strategically about it?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Joel Ford, and I'm a proud husband and a father to a senior in high school, and I'm glad to be here.
All right. Okay.
Good morning, family. I'm Thelma Byers Bailey. I represent you on the school board representing District 2. I'm here this morning to find out how you feel about this. I'm disappointed. My solution is what has always been the children. And my focus is on education. And I could share a couple of moments in my life when I went up to Johnson C. Smith and grabbed my granddaughter out of the library doing her diligence as a student, drug her to the poll so she could vote 5 minutes before the poll closed. And then the next year I had to harass her brother up in Chapel Hill. Did you vote? Did you file that absentee ballot? Did you get it in the mail? We gotta make sure that our children understand the value of the vote. And until we do that, we're gonna keep losing. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dee Jones. I am a campaign advisor. I think we need to put civil rights back into politics. And to 3 of the 4 reps here, thank you for your job.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Lewis. I am a Democratic Party precinct chair, precinct 13, which is uptown Charlotte and all the way up here to Parkwood, actually, as well as the newly appointed chair of the Education Committee of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg NAACP, newly appointed chair of the North Carolina Victory Fund for the North Carolina State Democratic Party. I appreciate the kindness and generosity that people are talking about here and that they are disappointed. Quite frankly, I'm enraged. I'm angry. I feel that Tricia Cotham's actions, not only against the Democratic Party and the residents of her district, but I feel it is an affront very similar to George Wallace standing in a schoolhouse tour. I don't care what she says. There is no justification for this level of betrayal of American democracy or to the rights and responsibilities of the residents of her district and North Carolinians in general. I do think that we overall, not only within the Democratic Party, but with regard to grassroots groups, have a messaging problem, that we don't understand the magnitude of the issue. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Moore, is it partners? This, okay. Young man, do you have a statement you'd like to make?
Tell us your name.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jordan Lopez, East Charlotte resident, board of directors member for Charlotte East, and the co-chair of the GOTV committee with the Black Political Caucus. If anybody is interested in getting involved with the Black Political Caucus, please let me know.
Turn it on.
If anybody is interested in getting involved with the Black Political Caucus, please let me know. I would love to give you an email and sign you up for our listservs to let you make you aware of when we have our monthly meetings. GOTV meets once a month, and we'd love to have everybody involved as we work to increase Black voter turnout in Charlotte, not only this year, but set the groundwork for next year as well. We wanted to focus on East Charlotte, but now we'll be expanding our efforts to District 112 too, as we work to educate Black voters specifically in Tricia Cotham's district, because we endorsed her as a caucus last year. So we have questions about what were your motives, what were your intentions, how long has this been in the works? Because I, like many of you here, questioned her intentions from the very beginning. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. We have someone that just came in, but I have Robert Dawkins was invited here this morning, so he sent us a text. So I'm just going to share what he is saying. He's in Washington. That's why he couldn't be here this morning. He's sent to me the message, hearing that Tricia Cotham switched parties came as a blow to me personally and emotionally. We have worked together over the years to push for progressive policy change to see her commit to a political party that has been grounded in systematic racism, sexism, and quite troubling. It's hard to comprehend that any level of alienation by the state Democratic Party would lead you to become a member of a political party that makes alienation of the majority of your constituents a pattern and practice. But I can say that as a person interested in passing policies that protect our community, it would be ill-advised for me to spend my time trying to convince Representative Cotham to switch back to being a Democrat or resigning her position. As my grandmother told me once, when a person shows you who they are, you are to believe them. I would rather spend my time doggedly demanding that the representative vote on every bill the way that her constituents feel is important. If a bill is one of her on her committee, make sure that her phone does not stop ringing, voicing your support. Make sure that her email is full from your voicing your support. Make sure that the people are sitting in her office to voice their support. Time has to be spent once someone has let you down, but how your time is spent is important. Remember that no change comes from simply complaining about how you have been wrong. Change comes from specifically and strategically working to limit the ability of someone or something to wrong you. If Representative Cotham cannot hold a community meeting, answer her phone, or walk in her office without people asking her what she is going to vote on specific issues, you are making a larger impact that's simply complaining on how you have been wrong. As a previous legislator, the representative makes up one vote. She is only deciding vote if you know for sure how not only her but everyone else is voting. Don't spend all of our efforts on the one vote when there are at least 3 other votes in the House that you need to also worry about. You need to plan to ensure all Democrat voters and the way you want them to always looking for people or Republicans to support as well. So that's from Robert, and I think that this was well said, and that's we know that's the way that he thinks. So at this point, we're going to ask the young man that came in, and what we're doing is getting comments from individuals about how you feel about the situation.
In a minute and a half.
Right.
Everybody, my name is Drew Cromer. I am one of the candidates running to chair the Democratic Party at our convention in about 2 weeks. I think the writing was on the wall a little bit for this situation. I won't say that I was surprised, but obviously, like many of you, very disappointed to see this became the outcome. Looking at the situation, it seems obvious to me like there was a singular goal on her part. She's wanted to be superintendent of public instruction for a very long time, had a whole campaign ready to launch, website videos, everything a couple of years ago. Then she put it on hold. And, like her, I've also been looking at the data and realized that Democrats don't stand a great chance at statewide elections, given our lower turnout coming out of Mecklenburg. And when our turnout in Mecklenburg continues to lag 11% behind Wake County's turnout, we can't win statewide elections as Democrats. And Representative Cotham has also looked at that data, and she wants to be superintendent. She said, if I want to be superintendent, I got to be a Republican. Therefore, I think that was a large part of her reason for switching. I think, a lot of people have asked me, Drew, what do we do about it? Should we sue her for fraud or, something like that? No. Our best revenge is to prove her wrong and increase the turnout so the Democrats win statewide and no Republican can win statewide. If we do that, then her deal with the devil will be for naught. So I hope we can earn support at convention and look forward to getting to know everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, what we'd like to do. Oh, I'm sorry.
To me, what she did should be illegal. If the Democrats voted for you, we did our job. We got her in there. She should not be able to negate all of those votes. That's illegal. That's voter suppression. There has to be something changed to make it illegal, since apparently it is not. I think that, and I'm glad to see that we have good representation from the Black Political Caucus. And my recommendation, since to me you are the Black voice of the
political arena for Mecklenburg County, that you be the one to spearhead an effort to make that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, did you want to share?
No, I'm good. I think I mentioned early on how consequential this is. And I sent an email to those in leadership with the forum that individually we have to get out here and make sure folk vote. And that's redundant. Vote.
You said more than that. I couldn't hear you.
I was indicating how consequential this is during this session. But we got to move forward and come up with a strategy with many of the organizations that made statements. Let's collaborate and make a difference in 2024.
And I'd just like to say that when she ran for office, Dr. Yolanda was right behind her in numbers. So we know with that being a Democratic district, and I heard that there are going to be some redrawing of the lines, and that may be a part of their plan to make sure that she's going to be in a district. So we need to prepare ourselves with identifying that person that can run in that area. If the lines are redrawn, we need to be prepared for that as well, because we need to start right now in doing that. So we've heard from our legislators, and we've heard from our leaders in the community, and now we would like to take questions, but we are asking, if you have a question, you can address it to whomever you want to address it to. As Ken has come in and he asked if we invited her, it had to be directed to us, the leaders, the volunteers for the Tuesday Morning Forum. And that's what we like for you to do, is to identify the person that you're asking the question of, or if you're asking the body of the legislators. And we ask you to please ask only one question and do it in 30 seconds. And if you're addressing it to someone, we've taken statements from everybody. If you're addressing it to someone, please say that person's name or identify that person so they can answer it for you. If you want all of the four of them to answer, and we would give them 30 seconds to answer your question. So we're starting with Thomas Moore. I think he asked first. He had a question. Have you had your questions answered that you asked?
It wasn't directed at any one person, but I'm very concerned about issues. I'm very concerned about issues relating to children and families, because this whole deal of services to children and families, they're always the ones that when there is a war, it's the children and families that are in danger. And I feel that with a lot of what we have been doing, it's affecting children and families. So I just wanted to know from your perspective how this change is affecting children and families.
So I guess does either one of you want to answer that first? Okay, Majid. Okay.
You said change the situation with children and families. Well, I mean, that process is already going on. We've had the budget. We have a corporate income tax that is decreasing to zero. It's 5 years or so. That affects education. We have teacher salaries. Where we pay increase of medium average. Couldn't get that. That affects children. So it's, in many ways, legislation that's going on and will be forthcoming is gonna, because we can't stop it, it's gonna be effective.
Okay.
Could I offer something also?
Okay.
So, last week, after she moved her seat to the other side of the aisle, we had a veto override vote for Senate Bill 41, which was a laid-on NRA gun bill. Probably the most significant change is that no longer will the sheriff have to approve a purchase permit for you to buy a handgun. Children today suffer the most of, let's put it this way, guns contribute to children's death at a higher rate than any other risk, disease, automobile accidents, anything else in the country today. So yes, I think that it's allowing that veto override to occur will have an impact on children in North Carolina.
And Rodney. Okay. Okay, all right. Ken has the next question. And then
First
you,
of all, young man, that's a nice, pretty head of jet black hair you got, which leads me to my question. Each of you, I'm asking this question. You talk about voting and you talk about young people. So my question to you is, what do you have within your agenda and within your staff operations, a specific program designed to appeal to, discuss, attract, get young people 30 and under to the polls? And if you have none, that's a part of the problem.
Okay.
I can respond to that. I want all to respond.
Thank you. You know, I'm gonna go long term, I'm gonna move for short term. Because that's what we've been doing, is short term. We see the fire and then we run into the well. But what we fail to recognize is that there's a decade agenda that's always been in place, which we haven't adopted. We put the fire out when Obama won, but we forgot the legislature. And that's how we got in the situation we did because of the census, the redrawing of the census line. But if you talk about a program for young people, there are lots of things that you can do to reach out to young people. But historically, they have not been our base voter. Historically, our base voter is over 50 years old and on up to senior citizens. So that's why we tend to cater to them. Plus, the generations are changing their priorities. We haven't changed our priorities, but they've changed what their priorities are, and we have to be engaged with them to see where they are. Now, I'm gonna tell you a piece of legislation that I just got through working on, and that was the sports wage betting bill. I negotiated that bill for 7 HBCUs, and I negotiated with the Republicans because they needed our vote. I negotiated with them to get no less than $350,000 per institution of the 7 HBCUs.
Thank you for the question. I'm on the younger side. I'm 36 years old, and I think what we have to do is we have to speak to the issues that are affecting the young community now. So 9/11 happened when I was a freshman in high school. My senior year in college, the entire global economy collapsed while I was on the job market. Right when we turned 30, that's when Trump was elected. Right when we turned 32, starting our families, that's when COVID happened. And so it's just been trauma after trauma after trauma that we've been dealing with. And so we need an economic agenda to speak to these to speak to these communities, to speak to these demographics. Because you look at Charlotte, we have a huge transient population of young people come here to work. They're working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. There are big companies uptown. They live in apartments. They don't have connections to our community. And so when you don't have that connection, we're getting married later, we're not having kids. And so that takes away those connections to the community where the government actually impacts you on a day-to-day life. And so we have to speak to these economic concerns of, affordable housing, college debt, to get them passionate about what the government can do.
Ken, thank you for that question. And I would say that a program, an instrument in my quiver is being available to young people. Now, is that a strategy? I hope it is. But I also have gone into these apartment complexes and visited with young people and encouraged them to vote and helped register them to vote. But when the time comes, there's always something more important and more pressing for them at that time. So being available to young people is what I always like to pride myself on. But, matching that code, I mean, that's going to take some of these young people that are sitting in here that are going to have to figure that out.
That's a perplexing question. I know the Democratic Party is always working on different segments in society, the rural, the women's vote, the African American vote, the category of young people working in that area. But like the outcomes, we didn't do very well in the rural vote, and put a lot of emphasis in that. So the Hispanic vote, they have a very low turnout. So it's perplexing, but we just got to continue to work. And maybe the answer is in the young people that they can come up with a solution as we listen and then apply that. But it's perplexing and it's a work in progress.
Okay, thank you all. We have Tina, then Rodney, and Mary, and Drew.
No, here.
Yeah.
I'm going to address this to Drew. I've not met you yet, and I know your opponent. I want to know, what are you going to do to instill trust in the voters? Because we voted, right? We voted all up and down. My social media is, you see what happens when you vote. So how are you going to instill trust? How are you going to inspire people to go to the polls? And you're running from Mecklenburg County, right? It's happened here, so.
Yeah, I think our party tends to wait to show up and ask people's support until right before the election. And I think the Democratic Party needs to do a lot better job of showing up before. We got to show up for people before we're asking for them to show up for us. And I think building those relationships long term is how we build that support. One of the goals that I have for the Democratic Party, and I know this meeting isn't a Democratic Party meeting, but one of my personal goals is to break the county up into lots of smaller pieces and start building relationships, because we need to have those relational organizing where people can organize in groups, that make sense for them. Mint Hill, Plaza Midwood, Uptown. If people can be organizing in those groups, they can build those relationships, and there's going to be an element of trust once you know who you're dealing with, within the party at least. And I want to tie in, to the question that was asked earlier about young people. People will trust the party when they feel like we are focused on their issues, and young people haven't been talked to, and that's why they don't vote.
We're taking questions. Anybody?
Thank you. The other day, the budget in the House was passed and voted on. And when Democrats support the budget, it's somewhat controversial. And so I wanted to ask, I don't know what's in the budget. I know that my colleagues, Ms. Cunningham and Mr. Majid, supported the budget. And so I wanted to know what was in the budget that really compelled them to make sure that this was a budget that was enough for them to support and let us know what's in the budget.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I did support the budget. Politics is about negotiating, especially when you're not in power. So when I looked at school lunch debt across the state was $7 million, I said, look, I need $7 million in that budget to wipe out the school lunch debt for children in the state of North Carolina. It's in the budget. I said, I got an institution down here that's building a behavioral health facility. It's $15 million in the budget. All right. Okay. I asked for 2 jail inspectors because we got suicide rates and overdoses significant. We've had 9 deaths in Mecklenburg County in the last 2 years. I got my 2 jail inspectors in the budget. So you got to negotiate and learn how to operate and function within the space that you're occupying at the time. I realize I'm not empowered, but I'm appointed by a Republican to serve as first vice chair on the health committee. So I work with them, but you know what? So other people need to learn how to work with them too.
All right.
Because we're not getting ready to change.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Bless you, sister.
I voted for this bill, and in retrospect, last biennium, the governor didn't veto that bill, but I voted against it because it didn't have the expansion. This time, Medicaid expansion is passed. There were a lot of areas dealing with health, that, like Ms. Cunningham said, that would affect our communities, and so I supported it. Now, I know my support would make any difference. If I could vote against it, it wouldn't make any difference. But you got to learn how to, like I said again, work with people to get some things in that that's going to affect change and affect people in our community. And so, yes.
We have a representative here for the person that's running against Drew, and she's like to address the question that Tina had about getting the involvement of the young.
Yes, hi Drew. Thank you so much for showing up. Yes, again, my name is Tanya Lewis, and oh, thank you. Yes, Tanya Lewis, and as I said before, I'm precinct chair for precinct 13, which is uptown Charlotte and adjacent right here, all the way up to Parkwood. And I am here speaking on behalf of Braxton Vicos, who is the other person running for chair for the Mecklenburg County Democratic Party. And we're in good shape in that we have these 2 candidates. But in response to the question, definitely the issue and what is not really a message is the necessity of Mecklenburg County increasing beyond the standard rate of turnout for voters. So that is a major platform, and Braxton has extensive experience in grassroots voter precinct. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. She gave me 30 seconds and then, yeah, so, okay. Yeah, it was 30 seconds, I think. Oh, she only gave me a minute.
She's right. I held up the sign. She had 30 seconds.
Right.
Now the second 30 seconds is up.
Okay, yes.
30 seconds.
2 30 seconds. Got it. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Tanya. And thanks for coming too. Appreciate it. We now have Mary and Christy.
I would first like to introduce the chair of the Mecklenburg County Black Political Caucus, Mr. Caleb Theodros. Okay, he's gonna have a chance to speak on it. Okay, but I do want to introduce him because, this organization, the Black Caucus, we do a lot of on the ground work. And, okay, I won't go into that, but I wanted to say that it is not their responsibility to get young people out to vote. It is our responsibility to get young people out to vote. How many people in this room can say they talked to 10 or 20 people and said, I'll take you to the poll, or let me get out? I'm serious.
Oh, yeah.
I'm serious. And I know you did, but I'm just saying that we can't say, why don't they do it? Because that's just one person. She doesn't know every single person. So we are the ones who are on the ground in the neighborhoods, and we're the ones that should get it out. Okay. My question is, could you please let people know what a supermajority is? Because I don't think everybody understands that, because people say, well, you can't, they're not doing anything. But you need to let them know what it is.
Yeah, I can do it. I can shout. So supermajority is the number of votes required to overturn.
It's the number of votes required to overturn Governor Cooper's veto. So, if we have a Republican legislature, they can pass whatever they want, but the governor can veto. But if they have 72 votes in the House and 30 votes in the Senate, they can overturn those vetoes. And so a supermajority is just that. It is a lack of a check on the legislative power. So whether the governor likes something or the governor doesn't like something, it does not matter. If every Republican votes for a bill, it will become law, and we have nothing to stop it.
Anybody else want to address that? Christy, that's the next question.
Yes.
All right, so my question is, I'm an unaffiliated voter, right? And we know that unaffiliated voters in North Carolina, more than the Democrats, more than the Republicans put together.
He's already had
So
questions.
what
You want him to
can
go
we do?
again with
So we can talk. But what can we do to bring more unaffiliated voters into voting in the Democratic bloc? What are we going to do to mobilize? I worked over the summer across the state to get 56,000 people to vote. I heard a lot. 30 seconds?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
You had 30 seconds.
Oh, I have 30 seconds?
No.
Oh,
It's 30 seconds to ask the question. You have 1 minute for the answer. I'm sorry, I held up the wrong side.
Okay. Thank you for the question. I consider myself a moderate. Even though I'm a Democrat, I can't change to an independent and win in Mecklenburg County. No matter if I want to be. But you need to get in the middle. You don't need to be extreme right. You don't need to be extreme left to attract moderate independent voters, because independents get to go left or right. But if you align with whatever their issues are, and they are mostly issue voters, if you align with their issue, you'll get their vote. But if you're too extreme, you may lose their vote.
And, I think it's part of authenticity. We talk about being moderate a lot. And so many people are moderate because they think they have to be moderate. And so it's inauthentic. But the reality, you say what you believe. And voters can see through that. Voters can tell if you're telling someone exactly what they want to hear. And so, if you're a conservative trying to play liberal, people see that. If you're a liberal trying to play conservative, people see that. But you just got to be yourselves. And, voters may not agree with you on every issue, but if they know you're your true self, if they know you're authentic and you believe what you say you believe, that brings people over more than anything, because, you're going to be straight with them. And I think more than anything, I think that's what voters want, and that's what we're missing the most in our political discourse right now.
I'd say that I'd like to talk with you. because that unaffiliated voters outside of the urban areas of the state are key to the future of being able to elect Democrats statewide.
Yes, Crispin is next. And after Crispin, we have Blanche. And then we'll give Caleb, we'll give you 2 minutes because that's what other folk had to say what they had to say, okay? You're welcome.
Good morning. I have been voting all my life, and it's not necessarily because I believe in the system. I vote because I know at 8:32, my mama's gonna call me and say, Chris, what, like, even with Tricia, she was voting in. So what, I don't see any really major change. I don't feel I'm represented in either party. So you say vote, are we just voting just to say that we vote? Because I don't represent from the Democratic Party or represent Republican. No one represent any ideas that I have.
You're directing it to.
Is there a question?
Just why do you think? What is the big push to vote? If anything is not being, if a family system is just holding.
Is there anyone in particular you'd like to answer?
Yes. It's Matisse, right? You gotta answer.
I'm gonna give you a general answer. Politics affects everything we do in our life.
Amen.
The water you drink,
Yes.
air you breathe,
Yes.
your education for your children. Yeah, the transportation streets that you have.
Housing.
Now, in the past, you can go back several decades, we didn't have people on the planning commission. And guess what the highways went through? They split up our neighborhoods, the interstate highways. We didn't have nobody on those boards. The industrial complexes that are around the neighborhoods, they're not in the other neighborhoods. Why? Because we had nobody sitting on the boards when the planning was going on. And you know, right here in Charlotte, I think Mr. Alexander was the first city councilman. So a lot's going on. It's politics. And how those people get there is how we vote. So, thank you.
Yeah, and you know, I'll add on to that of, you know, when you're running a campaign, you know, you got limited resources, and you said, okay, am I gonna go persuasion or I'm gonna go turnout? And you know, if you got limited resources, you're gonna focus on people who vote. And so if you don't vote, you give up your voice, and it's not long before the government's gonna give up that, is not gonna listen to that voice. And so, you know, there are a lot of there have been few politicians that I've been all in on, you know, but you show up and you vote, and people listen to you if you vote because they need that vote. They know you're going to show up, and they know your vote's going to matter. And so, you know, if you don't like any people, vote third party, or you know, don't vote for everyone on the ballot. But you know, they know you're voting. They know that your vote's up for grabs, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get that vote. And so that gives you more voice. But by staying at home, then they're just not going to try. So regardless of what we do, that person's not going to vote. And so it's your voice, it's your right. And so just you use it any way you see fit, and it'll enact change before long. But it's a long term thing. If nothing changes in one election, because anything that can change in one election, in the other election.
I was surprised to hear you say that it's nothing. And I think you're gonna have to go back and think about it because now I do mostly health and human services. So if you have a child that's health and human services in North Carolina, because most of your money that come locally come from the state of North Carolina. So the values of wherever and your issue, you're gonna have to look and see if it's certain to you because we've done the omnibus bill, which has been done in Congress. We're also doing that in North Carolina. And that looks at maternity and mortality rates, and specifically for African American women. So there are several issues that we have taken on that impact African American women. Reproductive health is huge for us as well. So, and you know, if you think about it, if you have children that are going to school, that money, part of it comes from the state. So if you don't have children, I'm sure there are other ways or entities that impact your personal life, and that's mostly how people vote. It's based on their personal issue that's impacting them. And you go back and think about it and look and see what in the Pacific in your life that you would like to change.
Okay. Can I ask the next question?
Thank you. Most people know me as being an action person. So my question is, we can sit around and talk about all this, and talk about, what we should, coulda, woulda, woulda. But my question is basically now. We already know what she done and then did and all that done and that stuff. So what is our next thing that we need to do? I'm about action. Because if everybody remember about Lake Arbor, people told me to shut up, move around, don't say nothing. But guess what happened? Okay? I'm about housing, I'm about education. So I'm talking about action. So what is our next step? What are we gonna do? Whoever can answer it. I don't care. Okay, let's go with the legislators here. So since they have a little bit more power, let's ask them. What would you like us to do? I know get out voting and all that kind of stuff. What else would you really like us to do so we can hit that ground and do something?
Thank you. First of all, you need to probably look at an agenda and organize, because that's how you move things through organizing. I've been a community organizer, but I found that when you can do a collective group that are willing to get behind the same goal, like we did on the Charlotte Healthcare Coalition, to push Medicaid and to push the ACA, we were able to go across the entire state and push that agenda. But we had to connect with other members that weren't in the same groups that we were. We started with 7 and ended up with 15. By the time we got finished, we had over 500 people that came into Charlotte in support of the ACA. But it took meeting weekly. John Archer was there. It took meeting weekly, meeting in churches all over Mecklenburg County to get us all on the same page and say, here's our goal and this is what we're going to do. And that's what happened. But it took weeks and months. I think we worked on it almost 2 years straight before the ACA came in effect. We were meeting and strategizing how we're going to do this, who can we bring in, and that's what happened.
And I agree with that. The biggest thing we can do is organize and get as many community meetings as possible like this, and just get people energized, get people informed, and get people activated. I know that watch our legislative agenda like a hawk the next couple months, because the only thing we have is our voice, and to make a big fuss out of thing. And again, hold Tricia accountable to the position she ran on. Because all those are going to be coming through the General Assembly, and we gotta watch that agenda like a hawk and say this is coming, and we gotta let our voice know before it gets in committee, before it gets to the floor, because that's our biggest chance to push for change. Because if we make a big deal of it, that really can't stop some legislation in its tracks. But we can't wait to do it.
Would you
tell people how to do that? Research. Like you said, try to do it. They don't know how to try.
Just real quick, I just want to say that a fast track democracy is a way to track, a free tracker. You click on what your area of interest, and it'll email you those bills and committees and where they are, so you can know exactly what's happening. That's a practical tip. It's free. It's called Fast Track Democracy, and you can get email updates of when legislation is moving, and you get to track what's important to you.
Thank you, Christy.
Just to note, we have been given an extra 30 minutes to be in here, so if you can remain in here till 10:30, we will continue this dialogue. And just to remind you, our most desired objectives for this meeting, we have heard from about the ramifications, and we've given everyone an opportunity to share what they would like to see happen or ask those questions. And we've heard time and time again that we like for someone to recommend a plan on how to deal with the situation. I think Blanche just reiterated that. And the last thing that we would like to get from this meeting is to have an organization or person or some volunteers to organize and create a plan or a strategy with all of us working together that are in this room. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to president of the Black Political Caucus.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, 2 minutes. Much of the time. But my name is Caleb Tedros from the Black Political Caucus. I guess as many folks saw from our press release, essentially kind of our stance on Representative Cotham, it is an area of concern, to put it very lightly. I think if you take away the politics of it, obviously we're not politically affiliated. We're able to endorse both Democrats and Republicans. I think the crux of the problem for us is, 4 months ago, you essentially run, you provide a set of ideas, you raise money on those ideas, we endorse you on those ideas, and then 2 months into your position, you essentially switch on those ideas. And this is a broader problem outside of Representative Cotham just switching parties. There are certain votes, especially in committee in general, actually, that caught our attention. We did reach out before she even switched parties, for folks that only want to talk about the political party at all. So I think, this is a broader problem that I think keeps especially affecting Democrats. And so it seems like we keep getting at the short end, especially when it comes to campaigns or even recruitment. I think Ms. Penn was talking about an action plan, and I think that is necessary with the resources that we already have. Organizations like, LEAD and C exist, and some of these nonprofits get tons of money to recruit folks. And to put it mildly, some of the folks that have been running for office and challenging some of these seats, I see why no one essentially wants to vote. And so I think we need to do a better job across the board. The BPC does a very good job of endorsing and essentially walking candidates to the finish line. But we can't take on things like recruiting, and we just don't want to be mediocre in 7 different things and really focus on the areas that we do well in. I think it is extremely concerning, Representative Cotham's position. I do think that there is a broader problem in essentially North Carolina. I mean, we see the Democrats that are able to win statewide. It's a very tough thing to do, and folks have announced that they're running, and I hope that they run very effective campaigns where they're using, boots on the ground in organizations like the Black Political Caucus. So, we're here to help. Oh, also, sorry. Meeting this Sunday at St. Luke's Missionary Baptist Church at 6 p.m. So hopefully everyone can.
Okay, we have a question from Ken.
I keep hearing the word agenda. First of all, nobody answered the question I asked originally anyway. But I suppose each of you is familiar with ALEC. Can any of you point to a comparable agenda that has consensus as it relates to African American agenda in North Carolina and say that this is something that you are guided by in your agenda? And I am a betting man, so I will bet that hardly any of you, if you does anybody have anything that you can point to comparable to ALEC as it relates to an African American agenda or consensus on an agenda?
Are you telling Ruth what
ALEC
is?
They all know.
The American Legislative Exchange, and it's a very conservative group. It's a PAC. We don't have that. We did have Alice at one time. It's been a couple of years ago. But as far as the African American agenda, we do have the Black Legislative Caucus, and they do come up with an agenda each time we go back, each cycle. Currently, the chair of the organization is Representative Kelly Alexander, and the agenda was set when we first went back into session. And it's specifically to, we don't say African Americans like we used to. We people of color now. We should keep on changing. So anybody that is of another race is a part of being a member of that legislative, that caucus.
And so ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Committee, is a conservative think tank. It's funded by billionaires. Everything's poll tested. Everything sounds real great when they file it. And thus it's very hard to oppose. And so there is not a comparable organization for African American causes and for an African American agenda. And it's something that, you know, we should work on forming. We have SIX, which is the State Innovation Exchange, which does similar type things for progressive type legislation. It's poll tested, but that's what we need. We need a national organization that's well funded, that's committed to state legislative races and committed to the state legislature, because that is where 90% of the power is in the United States. And so we got to focus on building that infrastructure up.
Representative Cunningham said what I would say.
We thank. Okay, come on, go ahead. We, for those that have to leave, we know a lot of people have to leave at 10 o'clock and they came anticipating leaving at 10. So we'd like to thank you for coming, those that have to leave. But we still want to know, we want to get into an agenda. We need some volunteers. We need some guidance on how we're going to come together as leaders of this community to make some things happen. Or we might not be able to come up out of it, but we can close a very reasonable space for the day.
So I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts on the question about an agenda specifically for African Americans. So I work with a group called Carolina Forward. They're a statewide nonprofit organization that seeks to rival organizations like ALEC, but on a smaller scale. So if you're familiar with the John Locke Foundation here in North Carolina, it's essentially the same thing, but for a statewide organization. And Carolina Forward is a relatively young organization, but it seeks to rival that. Our website has several blog posts that go through a variety of policy areas like affordable housing, energy, healthcare, Tricia Cotham even. And while they don't specifically refer to or are based in the African American community, none of the issues or the policies that we support would negatively affect communities or affect us as part of the community as well. I wouldn't put my name behind them if I felt like they did, if I felt like they didn't. So I would recommend checking them out. They have laid out a pretty extensive policy platform and policy positions that are poll tested, again, like Alex or John Locke, but this time more tailored to progressive issues or democratic causes.
What was the second?
Or yes, or join the right political caucus. So, you know, both organizations are nonpartisan. I think I would say Carolina Forward needs a bit more direction.
I couldn't hear.
Okay, are there any other burning questions or statements? Rodney?
I forget. I get it.
Thank you so much. I just
Thank you,
say
Wesley.
thank you for having me, but today is my son's birthday, so I'm out of here.
Oh, okay.
I think and hopefully, I'll try to wrap this, I'll try to get this done. Hopefully, we're missing in conversation. If we're not talking about gerrymandering districts, and we're not talking about how we're gonna put a strategy together to stop the gerrymandering and stop these districts from being red and blood red and those things, because we have to take over the General Assembly again. Excuse me. I just went to the doctor today, so excuse me. We really have to talk about these gerrymandered districts. We have to talk about winning elections. We can't just talk about a strategy or be mad with Cotham because that time has passed. And so now we have to really strategize about how we're going to win elections in North Carolina again, because the Democrats have been in a losing position for the last 13 years. Once we lost the General Assembly in 2011, it's been a downhill slide ever since. And so these people don't even have to go back to the General Assembly, because the Republicans don't need them for anything. They have a super majority, which means that they can pass any piece of legislation that they want, and John and Majid, whoever else on the Democratic side, has to sit there and take it. I've been there.
Okay. I have to leave, but as you strategize, I would encourage you, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I would like for us to join in some of these organizations that are doing this, you know, and strengthen those organizations. We got the Black Caucus, Get Out the Vote committee, and they are energizing us. We've got sororities and fraternities that have legislative groups that they go out and get out the vote. So I would encourage us to join in one of those groups, and let's see if we can move the needle.
Any other recommendations, suggestions? What I'd like to do is throw this out right now to Steve and Jeffrey. And, okay, maybe we need to try to pull groups together on a Tuesday morning at 8:30. We have some time and space available. On some Tuesday mornings, we meet at least 42 Tuesdays throughout the year. But we might want to make a quarterly meeting for bringing organizations and some of our elected officials together to have a similar conversation like we've had this morning. We don't have the plan in place yet. And we would, if you want to volunteer to start getting together with the other groups, please let us know, one of us know. Jackie, Natalie, Mary, Sarita, and those that are here this morning, so we can start the process.
Thank you. I just want to echo this issue around gerrymandering, because I think it very much goes to your point of view by many voters that things don't change. And the reason that they don't change is because of this gerrymandering. And so when we talk about the Republican majority, whether it be Tennessee or North Carolina, I think it's important for us to start saying the gerrymandered super Republican majority every time that we say it, because it is the denial of democracy and voting rights to our populations. Here in North Carolina also, the legislature has almost total and dominant control over what happens in municipalities. And so no matter who we vote for in our municipalities, we still do not have control. It's actually, quite frankly, a form of apartheid. So, you know, when people say, oh, nothing has changed, the reason it hasn't changed, primarily white supremacy, but grounded in white supremacy, is gerrymandering. So, you know, I just want to bring out that point. I think you have a follow-up comment there. Yeah.
Jack is gonna close us out. Oh, Ms. Majid.
Majid and Ken.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you some bad news, because we got a lot of bad news coming, but this is reality. I think I heard a float, you talking about gerrymandering, just came to my mind, is that they're looking at dividing Mecklenburg County into 3 congressional different districts. Also Wake County into 3 congressional districts, and Guilford County into 3 congressional districts. Now, why it's something significant about this, because remember now, they have this majority in the Supreme Court. So in a lawsuit you bring against right now, it's like throwing it on the wall, it's gonna slide right down. So this didn't happen overnight, but we are here. And so it's gonna be, you know, that's critical. What you said about Germany, that's critical. That's that we might be facing this summer.
And on the subject of gerrymandering, I would just add that one of the first indications that the Democratic caucus in the House was in trouble was during a K-12 education meeting, where this member that has been the subject here today was a co-chair of that committee, and they voted in favor of HB 17, which would take the authority of the governor to appoint the State Board of Education and put it up for election based on the gerrymandered congressional districts. And there's another area for you, Thomas, where that would have an impact on the children in the state.
Michelle.
I wanted to.
We'll come back after Ken.
Okay.
Are you go? Okay.
I remember several years ago, quite a few years ago, that the ACLU behind the screen got involved with the sheriff's race. What's happening with the caucuses? Is this any way at all that they can get involved with something like this? Can the, I don't know how far their arms can reach. I remember. Yeah, I remember they're getting involved somehow with the sheriff's race.
I
Or am I just dreaming?
About that happens to you. I don't know if they. We can do it. Yes.
About 7 years ago, I drafted a proposal that's called We the People Alliance. I'm big on accountability and responsibility and reliability. And it grew out of District 2 representation on Charlotte City. This draft basically is a blueprint for how to hold your politicians, local, state, even national, accountable for the desires of their constituency. It basically says you give them a job to do, and then you hold them accountable by evaluating their progress as they go along toward achieving the goal that you established for them. I'm going to make it available to every precinct in Mecklenburg County as to the anybody that wants to have a copy of it.
Thank you. It's a secret he's been, oh. Yeah. Okay.
Again, thanks each of you for coming today, and hopefully it has been beneficial, and that some of you who represent organizations, that you'll get together and have this opportunity to make a difference as early as 2024. But again, thank you so much for coming, and please come again.